Hi everyone, my name is Sima. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be just a quick video where I talk about the Gossip Girl reboot while I do my makeup. I already have my base on just because I don't want this video to be too long, and I also don't have too much to say just because I've only watched the first 2 episodes. But I did want to share my thoughts, and so I'm just going to jump into it. I originally had a different idea in mind for this video, and I just didn't have time. I've had a really difficult long week, and I just did not have time to prepare all the stuff I wanted for this video. And I was kind of stumped. I was thinking what am I gonna do for this video? And for some reason last night, even though I was exhausted from the week I'd had, I felt really compelled to start watching the new Gossip Girl reboot solely because Thomas Doherty's in it, and I think he's very cute because my taste in men is literally the most generic textbook white boy. I'm that's for some reason that always gets me to into things for nothing else will. Anyway, so I've enjoyed him since he was in Descendants, which is a Disney Channel original franchise, which is such a strange thing. I am way past the demographic age that those movies are aimed for, and I would not have, again, I wouldn't have even watched that had a friend of mine not shown me what he looks like in that franchise. And then I was like, oh, he's a pirate wearing eyeliner, he's really cute. And so I've kind of been semi-following him ever since, and then I found out he was playing Max in this reboot, and I am someone who hasn't even ever really watched the original Gossip Girl. I've seen a couple episodes. I think I watched the pilot and a few other eps, but it was the kind of thing where I was still living with my parents, obviously, I was a minor when that show was airing, and so they kind of controlled what I was allowed to watch, and I wasn't really, it was the kind of show where because of all the sex and scandals and all that stuff, I wasn't really allowed to watch stuff like that, so I never really had the opportunity to watch it. And so I even though I know all the characters and I kind of get a lot of the references that they've been doing in the reboot so far, it's I don't have any original attachment all that much. I think Blair seems like a cool character, but I really don't have strong feelings about the original. So this isn't gonna talk about how I think it stacks up to the original. It's just gonna be my opinions about it, which I don't have very many because again I've only watched the first 2 episodes, but I do have some things I really want to say. Anyway, I'm also gonna be trying out some new makeup. I'm not gonna go into too much depth, detail about what I'm actually doing on my face. Everything on my face will be in the description down below. The 2 big things are I'm gonna be trying this ColourPop Aha Honey palette that I've had for a while. It's just their yellow monochromatic palette. I've had it forever, I've never actually tried it. And then I'm also gonna be trying out this Maybelline Sky High new mascara, which I have been trying to get for months and months and months, but apparently it went viral on TikTok, and so it was impossible to buy. But I finally got one. Everything else is stuff I've already used. It'll all be in the description. I'm not going to go into in-depth. I just wanted to have something to do while I talk. So, with all that out of the way, let me just jump into it. So, the one thing is when I heard of this reboot, I remember there was a whole bunch of storylines about, or stories, news articles and entertainment stories, etc. about how, I'll have primed my eyes already for the record. There was all these stories about how they really wanted this to be really diverse and have people of color and queer characters and etc, etc. And how they wanted this not to glorify people's wealth and really interrogate privilege, etc, etc, which to me was such a funny concept because I don't think anybody who watched the original Gossip Girl and wants to watch this, because I only really watched the first couple episodes of the original Gossip Girl, but I don't think anyone who was a fan of the original Gossip Girl was a fan of it because they thought these rich kids were good people. I think you watched Gossip Girl because you liked the messiness of it. You were there because you wanted to see rich white kids be messy and make bad choices and be terrible, backstabbing, awful people. I think that was the appeal of Gossip Girl. And so it was it was one of those things where when the stories came out, I kind of was I don't know who this is for, because I don't want to see a bunch of rich people feel guilty about how rich they are, you know? If you feel guilty about it, do something about it, give away all your money. Otherwise I don't care. I don't care for you to continue to be rich, but feel bad about it. I'm not here for that. But again, the allure of Thomas Doherty had me going, okay, I'm gonna watch this show tonight because I'm in a weird headspace and I am suddenly compelled by the urge to watch it because I think he's cute. And actually in the first 2 episodes, they did a lot less of that than I thought. Really, the only character that has a lot of that whole I'm rich and I feel bad about it thing is Obi. And I'm gonna get to Obi because I'm gonna talk about how I feel about all the characters, but let me just say it. He's my least favorite character on the show as of right now. I just find him truly unbearable. So I don't know how much more of that they're going to do, the whole people feeling bad about their privilege type thing, but the characters I enjoy most on this show so far are the messy ones, the bitches and the people just doing awful things and being snarky and manipulative. That is what I enjoy the most currently on this show. So my faves, Max, I said. So Max is Thomas Doherty's character. He is definitely my favorite. I just, again, 1, he's cute. 2, he's kind of an asshole and kind of manipulative. 3, he's constantly trying to get his friends who are dating each other to sleep with him, which I think is like hilarious to me. Like I don't know what they're doing with that situation, with the whole Max, Audrey, Aki situation, but I really hope it's not a love triangle thing, and I hope it gets resolved via like polyamory. Like I think that should be the answer. Like I think they should just all date each other. I think that would be the ideal resolution to that arc for me, being 2 episodes in, is that they date each other. I just really think, if you really want to be progressive, instead of a love triangle, just make the 3 of them date each other, and they would be like such a power like throuple. Like I want that so much for all of them. The other messy characters I love, Monet and Luna, right? Monet and Luna, I love them. I want them to kind of like have some storylines that aren't just like doing bitchy things for the sake of Julian. Like I want them to do some like bitchy things for the sake of themselves, but I just love them. I think they're so great. Like again, I like when characters on shows like this are just like terrible people, and that's what they are. They are like so mean, so catty, so just like solely like motivated by like success and power and popularity, and like keeping Julian on top, because when Julian's on top, they're on top, because like I don't like, basically like they're friends, I think, but they're also like colleagues. Like Julian's success is by extension their success, and so they're very invested in her brand and her social media succeeding. And so I love that they like go out of their way to do these terrible things on behalf of Julian, because they feel the need to protect her, to protect themselves. Like they're not good people, and they're great. They're so funny. Like their lines were some of my favorites. Like they're so witty, they're so funny. I just love it. I love it. And also I just like also love, like this is like an unrelated thing, but I also just love that like they have a trans actress playing Luna, and it's not like, I just love that it's like not a stereotypical thing where like a character who is like LGBT in some way is like, that's their whole character. Like it's like it's not an aspect of her character at all. It's just like she is trans, but she's a bitch. She doesn't have to be like a perfect representation of like an angelic character because she's like the one piece of representation, you know? Like she's allowed to just be like a fully fleshed out person who also just like is trans, which I think is cool. And also she's a beautiful actress. Like the first time I saw her, I was like, holy shit, you are so tall and so like statuesquely gorgeous. Like I wish I looked like that. Like anyway, and Monet is beautiful too. Like just like the styling on these girls, phenomenal. Like they just look like the most like beautiful baddest bitches ever. Like inspirational, truly. I want an ounce of like that bad bitch energy. Audrey, so Audrey I also love. Like I mentioned, like I said, I really want her and Aki and Max to be like in a throuple at some point. But she just seems like so high strung, but also like motivated. Like as a fellow like overachiever in school, who always like was very like invested in my grades and doing well in like an academic sense, and then also has like very severe like issues with my mother. She resonates with me, and I also just like that she's not like you can tell she has a good heart. Like she cares about her boyfriend, she cares about her friends, she really cares about Julian and protecting Julian from what she perceives to be a mistake she's making because she's too trusting and too naive. But she's also not like a great person. Like you can see that she's flaws. She's definitely like a little too harsh on her mother. She doesn't look at things from her perspective. She's just like, I don't know, I find her very like real. She's very clearly struggling with a lot of things, but also still doing her best to like succeed in school and be there for her friends. And I just think like, I don't know, she just like excites me in a way that like, I feel like a lot of the times like popular like blonde characters don't. Like I just find them to be too like stereotypical, but I think Audrey's almost like, because she's like she looks like a stereotypical blonde, but they're not doing that thing where they're just like making her like a mean girl. Like she's got like nuance to her that I find very interesting, and I'm like just really excited to see where her character goes. Like again, we've only like had her for like 2 episodes, but I'm like, she's up there in terms of like characters I'm like actively like rooting for and really interested to see like how her storyline develops. She's definitely one of them. Aki is actually also a character I love, mostly because like so far he just seems like very sweet, but there's like a thing with him that like I think he's more interesting than Obi, because Obi and Aki are both like presented as being like kind of like contrast to Max, right? Like he's very much like the douchebag in their group, whereas the 2 of them are both like they're both like framed as being very like nice, sweet dudes who like are looking out for their girlfriends and like have the best of intentions, and like they're best friends, so it like makes sense for them to have like those like similar like personality traits in common. But the thing with Aki is like I actually like believe him. Like I believe that he's a good person. I believe that he's like this like sweet boy who's like whose like friend group is like kind of like composed of like kind of shitty people, but he is like kind of like rises above the rest and like tries to make them better by like being their friend. And like the thing with them is like I think like to my understanding they all grew up together too, so it's one of those things where it's like you can understand how like even if like now he kind of thinks they're all bad people, like by virtue of like growing up together, it's like he's a soft spot for them. But he actually, like, I don't know, because I think, like, something in the second episode really resonated with me when Audrey yells at him for, like, not being her partner and always being a peacemaker. Like, as someone who really, like, very much, like, suppresses when I'm frustrated or when I'm upset or tries to, like, make excuses for people all the time when they treat me, like, terribly. That, like, really resonated with me because, like, I also, like, I feel like I'm always a peacemaker. And so I was kind of like, yeah, Aki, like, you need to, like, it's almost like you're too accommodating of other people and, like, you shouldn't be. And I just, like, I don't know, he just seems like such a sweet boy, and I see a lot of myself in him, and I am very curious to see, like, where his storyline is gonna go. Like, again, there's this whole thing with him and Max and Audrey where it's like Max is kind of like playing and flirting with both of them, and they're very clearly, like, having, like, relationship issues that I feel like could be resolved if they just, like, added Max to their relationship, and he kept it, like, interesting for all of them because they both, like, seem interested in him, but they also seem to really care about each other. And I think Max, it would do Max good to be, like, in a committed relationship because he seems like he makes some, like, self-destructive decisions just based on, like, being bored and not really having anyone. So I think it would be good for all three of them if they, like, had something together. And I also just, like, really like how, like, Aki is so bashful around Max, and Max kind of, like, teases out, like, this, like, a bit, like, has this ability to make him, like, try new things and kind of, like, I don't know, explore sides to him that he maybe, like, suppresses a little bit. Like, I just think, I love it. I love the three of them so much and their dynamic together. I just find it so fun, and I really, really, really hope they don't do, like, the love triangle thing. Like, I really hope it's just, like, a reciprocal thing between all three of them. But so characters I am neutral on. Right now I'm pretty neutral on Julian and Zoya, the sisters, mostly because, like, I like them, but I'm also, like, I'm worried the dynamic they're setting up with them might get, like, a little bit stale, like, a little quickly. Just because they seem to really be leaning into this idea that, like, they want to be sisters and friends, but, like, societal expectations and societal pressures are, like, plotting to pit them against each other. But so it's, like, this constant, like, again, just in these 2 episodes I've seen, I don't know if they're going to change that in the next 4, because I think there's 4 out or 3 out. I think there's 5 or 6 episodes total so far. But it just seems like if that's going to be, like, the central conflict, or, like, the Serena and Blair, which is, I'm assuming, what the original conflict was, like, in the original Gossip Girl. Like, I know Serena and Blair had conflicts in season 1, and I don't know how often those conflicts reoccurred, because they were definitely, like, best friends, but also, like, kind of enemies sometimes. And I don't know how it was handled in the original show, but to me, it's just, like, on the surface level, I feel like if it's constantly going to be, like, can they trust each other, or is another thing going to make them, like, backstab each other? Like, I feel like I would get sick of that dynamic really quickly. So I'm just, like, curious about what they're going to do with that, like, long term. But, like, right now, I just think, like, Zoya just seems so sweet. Like, she's so sweet and so pure, and I, like, want to protect her. Like, again, she's another character, like Aki, where I, like, sometimes she frustrates me, but I, like, also see a lot of myself in her. Like, I'm very much, like, the very, like, straight-laced, not getting into trouble, always following the rules, like, following a curfew, not wanting to be late, not drinking, like, very, like, straight-laced. Like, that's always been me. Like, that was me in high school. That's, like, to be honest, as a 26-year-old, that's still me. Like, I'm very, like, not getting into trouble, not hanging out in, like, scenes where I feel like people are gonna be irresponsible or messy or, like, you know, make questionable decisions. So, like, I really liked that aspect of Zoya, and I think the whole, like, half-sisters, like, wanting to reunite thing, like, if handled correctly, could be really interesting. And I do want to, like, learn more about the whole, like, because they seem to do a lot of build-up about, like, the reason why their mom, like, left Julian's dad to, like, be with Zoya's dad. And I don't know if that's gonna get resolved at all, or if that's gonna also be, like, a source of friction, like. But right now, the way that it seems like they're trying to, like, find their mom through each other seems kind of interesting and kind of sweet and, like, very real, I think, as like, how you would expect children who've lost their mother to react, like, to find the one, like, the piece of their mom they perceive to still be around, like, through each other. I think it's very sweet. And with Julian, it's like, I just think she, like, again, she has, like, the potential to be a very interesting character and a really cool exploration of, like, influencer culture, like, 1, but 2, just, like, the effects of, like, young fame and, like, fame for, like, seemingly very superficial things like outfits and clothes and, like, appearance, the way, like, what's happening on social media where, like, these, like, kids are frankly becoming, like, millionaires overnight, basically, for, like, really superficial reasons that could, like, disappear in the blink of an eye, and, like, what that does to your psyche and how that, like, warps you into a person who's, like, very, like, obsessed with, like, numbers and like, rankings and, like, constantly comparing yourself against other people on an algorithm, and everything becomes, like, a chase for, like, the next level of, like, fame in, like, a system that's very much, like, designed to be, like, fleeting and not winnable. Like, you can never, like, stay number 1, right? Like, there's always gonna be a new thing that's, like, growing faster than you. And so, like, I think even though Julian does some questionable things, like, it's like I understand why she does it. Like, she seems to have a really good heart, and, like, that's something that, like, even people who are upset with her, like Zoya and Obi, like, they seem to see is, like, she's surrounded by people that are, like, using her and constantly pushing her to be a meaner, more cutthroat, ruthless person because she's in such a high level of fame, but she like at her core is like a good person who doesn't want to have to stoop to those levels, but feels like she has to if she wants to like maintain what she has. And like is like once you're at that level, it's like it's really easy for me, who's someone who's not a social media influencer, to be like, well, why doesn't she just like see the big picture and realize that like she doesn't need to be so cutthroat, and she like her sister should come first before everything. But it's like, I don't have that success, right? Like it's like one of those things where like, to my understanding, fame is very like alluring, right? Like once you have that level, it's like the idea of losing it is like very freaking, especially if like your whole life is like planned around this long-term success and all your dreams are tied to like succeeding in this like very difficult to control environment. Then like, yeah, you would make some crazy decisions, and like at the end of the second episode, you do see that Julian like has the ability to step back and be like, okay, I'm being crazy, I'm going too far in pursuit of like fame and maintaining my status, and like I need to stop. And like that was a lot of growth for her to do in the span of like 2 episodes, really. So like I'm very curious like long term if they're just gonna like repeat this cycle, or if it's gonna be like her and Zoya will grow to like trust each other and like be sisters, and it'll kind of like, that won't be the central conflict anymore. Like they'll just like put it to rest. But I don't know. I'm very like I'm so curious about like what they're gonna do like long term with them. But I think they both have really like, a lot of potential as characters. Now for characters I like just despise, like I really do not like, I'm gonna just say like right off the bat, like Obi, I fucking hate that guy. Like I don't know if his character is gonna get better, but I just find him very like unenjoyable and frankly like kind of intolerable. Just cause like he's so like he's again, the narrative frames him as being like a really nice guy. Like even all his like character blurbs are like, oh, he's like a really good person who just like accidentally ends up being a heartbreaker, but like his heart is good, and he's like a rich guy who feels bad because he's rich and his parents do awful things, so he's like constantly at like protests and stuff and like helping out protesters and giving them food and like blah blah blah, and like you're supposed to be like, oh, he's such a good person who just like happens to be rich, blah blah blah. But like he does things that like you go like, okay, you're kind of a dick, dude. Like even if you aren't happy with your girlfriend, and even if you like don't want to be in a relationship with her anymore, you can break up with her and then not immediately like get with her younger sister, which is like so strange. Like Zoya's a freshman, right? So I like think she's probably what, like 14 years old. It's extremely weird behavior for your girlfriend's 14-year-old half-sister to show up, and you immediately are like, this is the time for me to break up with her because we've been unhappy all along, and I'm going to like get with her the literal next day. Weird behavior, I don't like it. For all his issues with Julian, he like never really like seems to have brought them up to her. He just kind of was like, oh, we're bored and we don't work anymore, therefore I'm gonna be like an ass, instead of like trying to work it out with you. It just gives me like bad vibes, like very much like nice guy, but like in the most derogatory way possible, where he like really thinks he's like a saint and he's better than everybody else, and like Zoya is the only girl that's on his level of like saintlyhood, and it's just like a weird, extremely weird, like he just gives me the worst vibes. Like I don't like Obi, I really don't. Like lean into who you are, which is like a privileged white guy. Like you don't have to like pretend that's not what you are, you're too good for it, or you feel so bad for it and therefore that cancels it out. It's just like, don't like him. And then the other characters who I think are like intolerable, like go to jail. The teachers at the school need to all be fired. Some of them need to go to jail. Like it's so strange to me that the teachers are like framed as being like these totally like pure-hearted people that like wanted to do the right thing and wanted to help their students, but their students are like mean, evil rich kids who have been spoiled their whole lives. Therefore, whatever insane bullshit these teachers pull is like totally justified because it's like for the greater good of these children. But it's like, it's not though. Like it literally isn't justified in any way. Like you are all insane. Like starting a gossip Instagram account to like cyberbully your students and get into their business is so like deranged. That one teacher literally like walking home and then seeing 2 of his students like taking their clothes off in a window and stopping to take a photo, send it to another teacher, make a joke about how he should be in prison, and then they put that photo on the internet. Absolutely not. Like it's so like it's like deranged behavior that the narrative is like framing as like, oh well, they have to do this because the students are terrible. Like if your job sucks so much and you hate your students and you think they're terrorizing you, quit your job and go get another job. The solution is not we have to get back at our students by cyberbullying them and stalking them and like starting blogs about their lives. Like go to therapy, go to jail, I don't care, but you're not good teachers. And the fact that you think you are and that narrative frames you as being good because, oh, the students are behaving better because like, I don't know, Gossip Girl is like teaching them to be humble is like insane. Like it's truly insane. Kate, the main teacher who is like the orchestrator and like the voice of Gossip, or like the writer for all the Gossip Girl blogs, like insane. Like you I'm sorry if you think it's mean that your teenage students like make fun of your outfits or like don't raise their hands in class or like don't respect you, but like the answer is not whatever weird crusade you're on. And the fact that it's working and so you think you're doing the right thing is more bizarre. And then don't even get me started on Rafa, who is a teacher who is like sleeps with his students. Like you fully do need to go to jail. Like actually like go to hell, go to jail. And I'm not one of those people, like I know a lot of people are like, oh, they shouldn't depict this stuff on TV. I think it's like fine to depict because this is a fictional show that's like not real. But I'm allowed to also be, because again, I'm an adult with critical thinking skills, I'm allowed to be like, he's a terrible person, which is great. Like he's a great character to hate, and I really hope they like lean into making you hate him, because right now he gives me the like skeeviest, worst vibes. Like the fact that he tells Max he'll sleep with him when he's not a student anymore. Hate that so much. Like every single teacher at this school needs to be fired. Like it needs to be fired and investigated. They're awful, terrible people. I don't know if this is gonna work, but I'm just gonna stamp some glitter. This is kind of fun actually. I think ordinarily I would use glitter glue for this, but I didn't do that. So now I just have like loose glitter all over my eyeball, which is fine. It's just like fun. It's very like reflective and I'm having a good time with it. Good enough. So yeah, I do hope they like eventually, because again, it's only 2 episodes and I do hope they lean into like recognizing that the teachers are like fucked up people and like they're not the heroes for being Gossip Girl. I do think it's interesting that like from the get you know that the teachers are Gossip Girl. Because like I know one of the draws of the original series was like answering the question of who is Gossip Girl. Like I know that was one of the big like questions in the original show. You don't really find out till I think the end of the show that it's Dan who's Gossip Girl. So I think that was like an interesting part of the original show. So I'm like glad they're kind of like diversifying what they're doing with this one instead of like redoing that concept and that plot line again. They're just like, this time you're gonna know who Gossip Girl is, because the focus isn't who is Gossip Girl. It's like the way social media is like influencing these kids and like ruining their lives, frankly, is like more of the focus. And you know who Gossip Girl is, and you hopefully, I think if you have critical thinking skills, you're not going to root for Gossip Girl, because Gossip Girl is not the hero here. Gossip Girl is a weird teacher who is bullying her students. And I also just think the show does a really good job of like integrating like the concept of being an influencer and the concept of like how much of like teenage lives these days, like they were when I was like a teenager too, but especially these days, how much of it revolves around being like on social media, and how much like what's going on social media like affects your like day-to-day life, and how like pervasive it is. Like the use of like texting and Instagram is so smart, as opposed to like the original Gossip Girl, which was like a blog, right? Like the way they've adapted that concept to like the current era, I think is like really, really good and really, really smart. And I very much dig it. So far, like of the parents they've introduced too, I really like them. Like I think the really nuanced way they treat Audrey's mom so far has been really interesting. Like she's like obviously failing her daughter in a lot of ways, but she's also like a real person going through like very real struggles that are not like easy. And like the revelation like at the end of the 2nd episode that like, oh, she like not only is she dealing with this horrible betrayal by her husband and how she's like lost her husband, but also that her like business is failing, and how that's like really pushed her into like a really not great direction and a not healthy direction. Like I don't know, I feel like there's this like unspoken expectation in a lot of media where parents are either like saints or they're the worst people ever, and they're not like portrayed, I feel like, as real people. Like no matter what, they're either cartoonishly good or cartoonishly bad. And I like so far that they are not doing that with like this show. Or like, this mascara is really pretty. What they do with both Julian and Zoya's dads, I thought was really good. Like, no, like yeah, they have like disagreements and they don't like each other because of everything with the mom, but they also like are looking out for the best interests of their girls. And I don't know, they treat their children like they act like real parents. And especially Zoya's dad like acts like a really good father. Like I just like the diversity of parenting we've seen so far, but also the fact that all of the parents feel like real people who are trying their best for their kids, even if their best isn't often good enough. Like they're trying, and they just feel very real, and they feel like characters in their own right, who I hope have like their own storylines, or like maybe not necessarily entirely focused on them storylines, but I hope they have like they're more than just set dressing for the development of the kids, you know, like they just feel like real people who I want to know more about. Dude, I'm obsessed with this mascara. It's so pretty. And then for lips, I'm just gonna do the Lolita lip pencil and the Lolita liquid lipstick. The one other thing I find really interesting is, yeah, the teachers are insane people. Like the teachers should all like be in prison or like reevaluate their life choices. I don't know what the teachers are doing, but what throws me off is I feel like the casting is strange in that like in that the teachers and the students like look the same age, which I find very strange and kind of bizarre. I was looking up the ages for the cast. I know the actress who plays Julian is 26, but the actress who plays Mrs. Keller, the teacher, is 25. And there's a whole bunch of that where it's like the teachers and the students look the same ages, which is very weird. And not in the way that like a lot of shows do, where it's like the teachers are like 3 or 4 years older than the students, but like they're styled in a way to kind of like make the teens look more like teens and make the teachers look more like teachers. And a lot of the times it's just to get around the labor laws that would be required if you were gonna like cast actual teenagers to play teenagers. Like I get that, and I get that like part of like TV shows about teenagers is that a lot of the times the adults and the teens are not that far apart in age. Like this just seems like a very strange choice to like deliberately cast it like a 24-year-old to play a teacher alongside like students that are played by like, yeah, a lot of the students are like 18, 19 years old, but then a lot of them are like 24, 25, 26. Like it just seems like a weird choice because yeah, it makes you go like, oh, why are the teachers and the students looking the same age? Like the only like functional difference is like the students dress a little more stylishly and that's kind of it. But it seems really strange, like it's a strange choice. I don't know why you wouldn't just cast the teachers to be a little bit older. But also what's interesting is when I looked at the cast of this one, like for the like actual like the teens, I remember thinking, oh, like these actually look like teenagers, because I remember thinking the original Gossip Girl cast, like I've never looked at them and thought those are teens. Like I always thought those are like college students, they're adults, like they're not high schoolers. I looked up the ages of the original Gossip Girl cast, and when they started the show in 2007, they were like pretty much the same ages as the current cast is now. Like they were they were like late teens, early 20s, right? Which is the same as this cast. Like this cast is also predominantly like late teens, early 20s. But it's still weird because even with that information, I look at like pictures of the Gossip Girl original cast in the first season and this cast, and I'm still like, why does this cast look so much more like teenagers to me? And I just don't know if it's just like they cast actresses and actors that looked younger, but it's so interesting to me that they actually were the same age, because I was like, oh, it's so nice of this show to actually like cast teenagers that look like teenagers. But then I looked back and I was like, oh, like the ages are actually the same. It's just like the original cast like registers as looking so much older even now to me, which is strange. But I don't know why I'm saying that. I was just like it's just me thinking aloud that I think it's really, really interesting that they like how much younger this cast looks, even though to my understanding, because this is going to air on HBO Max and not on the CW, it's actually going to be a lot more adult than the original Gossip Girl, or they're going to get away with a lot more like scandalous, raunchy stuff that they would have not been able to on the original. So anyways, there's just much to unpack. I again have no really attachments to the original Gossip Girl, besides thinking that like Blair Waldorf is a baddie. So even though I kind of talked shit about this when it first got announced and when I saw those articles about how they're gonna feel so bad about being privileged, I am kind of excited. I really enjoyed the first 2 episodes I watched. I am eager to catch up. I don't know if I'm gonna do more videos like this where I just talk about like what I thought about the events, but I will probably, when the season ends, do like a video where I talk about characters and how much I want them to throw me through walls, because that's just kind of what I do on this channel now. When I consume media, I rank the characters in that manner. So I'm gonna do that, but for now this is what you get. This is what I think. If you watch the reboot, tell me what you think down below. If you have you seen the original, tell me what you think down below. And if you're gonna watch this, or if you have watched this, how it compares. I am going to put on my setting spray because I think my makeup is done. This is really fun, this yellow. I really enjoyed it. I wasn't sure if I was gonna enjoy it, but I did. I really liked it. I think next time I need glitter glue, because otherwise I'm just gonna, like I have so much glitter like fall out under my eye, but that was just like because I literally put glitter on my face without glitter glue. Like that's kind of just what you expect to happen when you do that. But otherwise, I think this is really cute and really fun, very sunshiny. I think I'm gonna wrap up this video now. If you guys liked it, please hit the thumbs up button. If you wanted to follow me on other social media platforms, you can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram. And if you wanted to hang out with me on this channel, I post new videos every Wednesday, so please hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys all next week. Bye!